Hey guys, I hope you guys are doing very great. So recently I had a subscriber ask a question regarding fees and funding, and as I was answering this subscriber, I realized that there's quite a number of things I want to share, and I realized that just typing this down will take too long. So I decided, let me just do a quick video, right, to say what I think can help you from my part. So without wasting any time, so I took some notes down, right? I really didn't have a lot of time to plan this video, but I just took some little notes down so that I can share with you some of the things that can help you, right? So the first thing that I'd advise you to do is listen to as many people or as many students as possible who talk about this, right? So especially if you check the YouTube space now, there are a lot of students who are sharing their experiences and how they were able to overcome them, right? So my first tip, my first advice that I'd give to you is that really take time to search out more info as much as possible, because I realize that talking with other students helps. For example, there's a student right now who's doing final year medicine. I already call him Dr. Diet, right? And in his video, he mentioned something that I've seen before in the portal, but I've never really tried, right? He talked something about adjustment fee application, things like that. And I realized that I've been to UP, I've been in UP for a while now, but I've never really heard someone talk about it and things like that. And from him is when I started to learn more about what this really is. So the first advice would be take time to search out other students who talk about this issue, right, and get as much information as possible. Number two, I would say that start looking for bursaries or info about bursaries. So start looking for info about bursaries and also look for bursaries as soon as possible, very early, right? You tend to see that, especially a lot of us who are trying to get into medicine, right? We focus our time and attention and our energy in trying to find means and ways to make it into medicine, and then when we are there, we have little to no clue in how we can help ourselves in terms of funding and financial advices and things like that. So I'd say take time to apply early, right? My third advice, and this is based on what I'm seeing in people. So before I go to my third advice, I'd just like to share, right? As much as I'm talking about fees and funding here, the thing I'll do is I'll start inviting other people to talk about their experience, because there are certain experiences which were very interesting that I'm not going to touch on today, right? I want the people who are going through those experiences to come explain them properly, because I don't think I'm going to do justice on those, right? So I'm just going to touch on a few here, and then as time goes on, I'm going to ask other people to come in as well and help with what they know on the matter. But my third advice, which is one thing I saw from one of my friends, is apply to as many bursaries as possible. So now you find that the interesting thing or the hard thing that we have is that you find a bursary that is for engineering, for example, and you don't apply at all. What I have recently learned, right, what I've recently seen, I've seen dentistry students being funded by bursaries that are meant to focus on engineering, right? Or I've seen nursing students being funded by bursaries which are more focused on medicine and things like that. So I'd say apply to as many bursaries as possible. I think the main thing you should check for is check if the bursary is funding for the university you go to. If it does, apply to all bursaries which are available to fund you for that university. Another thing that I see that has stopped us or has limited us, there are certain bursaries which require certain marks from matric, and the moment we see that, we stop applying. And like I say, there are students who apply to bursaries who don't really meet the criteria but end up being funded by those bursaries. So that is very important. I'd say to a minimum, right, to be safe, apply to 10 bursaries. And the good thing is that you can be funded by more than one bursary, right? So apply to as many bursaries as possible as early as possible, right? To come back to medicine, one of the bursaries that I've seen that are very good, and I'm seeing this from classmates and things like that. The first one I'd have to talk about is a bursary called ISFAP, right? I can't talk to the specifics, right? I want someone who's being funded by ISFAP to talk about that, but I can just mention that's a very good bursary for medical students. I've seen a lot of students, and I've heard a lot of students talk about it, saying how satisfied they are with the bursary. The second one that I'd like to talk about is the provincial bursaries. For example, if you're from Mpumalanga, there's the bursary from Mpumalanga, from Gauteng, and things like that. And that's also a bursary I don't know a lot about. But I know once they start funding you, you are in very good hands, right? So the advice I'd give to that is go to your municipality and ask more about the bursary regarding the province you are coming from, because I really believe that these two bursaries that I'm talking about now, they are one of the most spoken of bursaries, or the two biggest bursaries of which students are satisfied of. Always apply for NSFAS, right? NSFAS might be facing their challenges, but to be honest, they are truly funding a lot of us. Although there are complaints here and there might be some scandals here and there, but the truth of the matter is, looking back, NSFAS has paid a lot of my fees, so I wouldn't say chuck it away. I would say that they have their own problems, but apply. And with NSFAS, apply as early as possible as well. Apply as early as possible and try to keep contact, right? Wherever you can reach their offices, try to keep contact and be consistently there, right? To find out more, to ask more. What can you learn about those things? Another thing that I didn't know could help you, but turns out it does. Also learned this from my other student, is be frequent with the administration offices in your university, right? Frequent their offices and ask for their help. Ask if they can help you, link you to other bursaries. There's a student right now, I know that the bursary that is currently funding him, he was linked by someone else who works in the varsity, who referred him to that bursary, and it ended up funding him very well, and is very satisfied with that bursary, and it did wonders for him. So I would say that go to your administrators, talk to them, let them know about your situation early on, right? One of the mistakes we do as students, we start going to the administrator when it's too late, and when the time to make a plan is already late, right? So go to them as early as possible, right? If you can foretell that there's going to be a problem regarding your fees, go to them as early as possible and talk to them and say, this is the issue I'm facing. What do you think I can do? And trust me, they'll give you some very great advices, and they'll give you some very good leads and things that you can try. So that is another option. One other thing I've been told by students, right, is to apply at the beginning of the year, right? So I haven't really applied for a lot of bursaries, but I've been told, right, that most of the bursaries are open beginning of the year, and you have better success when you apply for a bursary in the beginning of the year. So those are a few of the tips really that I wanted to share with students. So let me just now answer the comment. So there was a comment where they asked me, how would the funding work if you move from one degree to another? Again, I'm only going to touch on what I have seen happen to other students, right? So my answer may not be absolute. You might find that there's someone who is different from what I'm about to share to you, but I'm just going to share what I know. So I myself transferred from one degree to another, and my experience with that regarding NSFAS is that NSFAS didn't cover me for my first year. So I spent 1 year in BSc and then I transferred to medicine. They didn't pay my fees for BSc. So what they did is they just focused on medicine and just paid for my medicine fees. And I've seen that it has happened to a lot of students whereby we were in the same problem or issue, whereby if you spent 1 year in a different degree and you transferred to another one, NSFAS really didn't focus on paying on the first one, but rather focused on paying as soon as you start with medicine, and they make sure they finish those fees, but then you end up having to make a plan for your first year of study. The different plans that can be made. As time went by, I learned that there are some certain companies and bursaries you can apply to who cover such students. So you find out that you have historic debt and you can go to such companies, you can apply to them. And like I said, I'm gonna start revealing more, especially as soon as I start talking to learners or students who have gone through this. I'm gonna start revealing some companies they used, but I want them to come and first speak on those companies and how they were assisted and things like that. So what you can do for that, you can maybe apply for a second bursary that can cover your historic debt, or the other option that people have is to take a loan, right? One of the other options you can do is to apply for an adjustment fee, right? So to do an adjustment fee application. So with what I know now, how it works is that you apply as if you're applying for a bursary, right? And what happens is that they kind of deduct some of your fees. So for example, if maybe your fees cost 80,000 after you apply to them and you give them the reasons why you'd like to apply to them and they agree to give you an adjustment, your fees can go down to 50,000, right? And maybe to a lot of people it might not sound like a lot, but it will help, especially if you might end up needing to take something like a loan. Taking a 50,000 loan will be way better than having to take a loan of 80,000. So I'd also say acquaint yourself with the adjustment fee application, learn about it early enough, apply for it, and hope for the best. So that is one part of it. The second thing that I've seen happen to students who transfer from one degree to another was a bit harder. So for us, you think that NSFAS leaving out the first year was bad. For other students, what NSFAS ended up doing is they ended up treating their first degree and paying for the fees as if they're doing that first degree. So what do I mean by that? Say for example, you are accepted for BSc in biological sciences, and let's say the funding for BSc or the years you need to study for BSc is 3 years, right? So let's say first year you're doing BSc, second year you're still doing BSc, and let's say during your second year going to third year you decide you want to take a transfer to medicine. So what then NSFAS does, what I've seen it do to some other students, is they'll focus on paying the fees as if you are still doing BSc, right? So they'll pay for the 3 years plus one other year, meaning that they'll pay for 4 years. But now this is going to end up being a challenge, because now your first year in BSc will be covered, your second year in BSc will be covered, your first year in medicine will be covered, and maybe your second year in medicine will be covered. But then you find that you'll start having problems when it comes to third year, fourth year, fifth year. And at that point, NSFAS will consider having paid your fees. And from there, going forward, you'll have to find other bursaries to fund you, right? So there are students who went through that or who are going through that right now as you speak. And one of the ways that these students got over this is they applied for other bursaries early enough. That was the first thing that they did. But though there were some anomalies that I saw. So there was one student who is experiencing this exactly like I just mentioned. But then what he did, he applied for NSFAS through the university. So there are two types of NSFAS you can apply for. And to be honest, I am not sure which is which. So there's DHET and then there's another type. So what she did is she was funded by the DHET NSFAS and then moved on to the other, whereby she applies yearly at the beginning of the year, and then there are some funds released by NSFAS to cover her, and then what she had to do is cover the remaining balance, which is very better because most of the time they say that it's not really that much to cover. You can cover it pretty easily. So those are the two types I'm currently aware of when it comes to switching degrees, right? So yeah, so this is all I have for today. As soon as maybe I remember something else or I get more info on the topic, I am gonna share more, but at the current moment, this is what I have. Like I said, this is not the end though with regards to this topic. What I am gonna do is I'm gonna invite other learners who have different experiences and different intel and knowledge about this topic. Then take time to research about this, right? Take time to find other students, take time to find other people who are talking about this. It might not even be someone who's in medicine, it might be someone who's doing something completely different. Find out from them what their tips and advices would be from their perspective. So that'll be all from my side. Thank you very much.